Hello, everyone. This is Christine Matus from the Matus Law Group, and we are featuring Dr. Dan Cruoglio of Life Adjustments Coaching. Every now and then, we love to introduce to our clients our referral partners that we love to work with. These are people who we ultimately trust, we've vetted, and in this level, I've personally worked with. And so it's such an honor for me to have Dr. Dan Cruoglio, Life Adjustments Coaching, on the call today on this podcast because he has so much information to offer. I am a big believer of improving your personal self, knowing yourself. I honestly believe that personal growth must precede professional growth. I mean, in order for us to do better professionally in our businesses and in other aspects of our lives, we really need to know ourselves personally. And sometimes you do need an outside person to look at things and help you. And that's how I found Dr. Dan. I find that his information, his interaction, and his experience is bar none. He is fantastic. So I'm also honored that he has the time to spend with us. He's a very busy man. And so to share a lot of his knowledge and give value back to all of us. So, Dr. Dan, thank you so much for being on this podcast. I think it would be a nice way to start if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started, and to show the value of what you do to all of our clients.
Absolutely. Well, most people don't know Dr. Dan. The doctor part is I was a chiropractor, still am a chiropractor. I still maintain my license. But in 2008, we lost our office in a fire when my wife was diagnosed with a malignant brain tumor. And one of my patients happened to be the founder of a coaching school and recommended that I go through the program. So that's how I got involved in coaching. I chose business as my niche because we had a business. But unfortunately, we were unable to sell it because I gave my patients away in order to take care of my wife, which I don't regret, but at least it put me where I am today to help small businesses create businesses instead of what they think is a business, but it's rather, unfortunately, a job.
And that's one of the things I love when we were working together. Uh, you're always looking forward that this is a business, how it should function, and the systems. And there was just so much value you provided to myself and my firm. And I think that is fantastic. And it's so interesting how you started. And I think that's part of the big value, Dr. Dan, is that you were in it. You were a business owner. So the information and the experience you give to others is really heartfelt. It's personal.
It is personal. And the thing is that I've gone through every hardship known to man, not only losing my practice, eventually losing my wife, my house in Sandy. So I know what it's like to have things happen to you. But when you learn certain skills and learn to ask the right questions, then you're able to get from where you are to where you want to be. And so initially I started as a consultant for a chiropractic consulting company, Breakthrough Coaching, which actually taught chiropractors how to build their practice. And the thing that surprised me was the fact that I was teaching this system to all these different doctors, and some were doing well with it and others weren't, and I was teaching the same stuff. And that's when I came across learning about the Energy Leadership Index, which is a wonderful, wonderful tool to help people see what they're doing, because it's very difficult to change what you don't see. And having somebody on the outside, like you had mentioned before, is wonderful because it's very difficult to see the frame when you're in the picture. So it's important that you have somebody from the outside to really help you see these things, which gives you an opportunity to change.
I love that, because you're right. When you're in the picture, uh, things get a little hairy. Things get very difficult to see progress, to see and get perspective. I think that's a big thing. So I was wondering, Dr. Dan, would you let us know what are the advantages of hiring a coach?
Well, that's one of the advantages, right? The first advantage is having somebody that can see things that you don't see, and not reinventing the wheel. Most people, like I said before, they don't know what a business is. See, by definition, a business is a profitable entity that can run without you being there. If you don't meet that definition, then unfortunately you don't have a business, you have a job. And the reason for a business is Really only three reasons. Number one, that you would leave it as a legacy for your children. Number two, you would sell it for a profit. And number three, you would get somebody else to run it and collect passive income. And that's what the purpose of a business is. And people don't understand that there are many phases to a business. There's actually 6 phases to a business. The first phase is what we call operations. And operations is what you do. As an attorney, the day-to-day things that you do in your office are the operations. A construction worker, a general contractor, what they do on a day-to-day basis in their building is their operations. And most people, that's one phase that they got pretty well down because they know what they do, and hopefully they're pretty good at it. The second phase is strategy. Not many people have a strategy. They go into each day just off the seat of their pants. They have no goals, they have no strategy, they have no business plan, and they think somehow miraculously they're going to get to where they want to be without, putting in the time, work, and effort to create the plan, to create the strategy. The third thing is your finances. Most people don't realize this, but businesses that fail because they grow so fast that they don't have the finances to support the growth. So it's important that you understand your finances, understand about the difference between revenue and profit. Revenue might increase your ego a little bit, but profits is what feeds your family. It's what you take home. It's not how much you make. Unfortunately, people think that as their revenues go up, their business becomes their personal ATM machine, and then they find themselves in trouble down the line.
Going into the day with a strategy, you're right. I mean, I always try to wonder when, before I start my day, using your techniques and just looking at my week ahead, planning out like, what are the things I really have to do? What are the things I need to, progress with to hit my goals? My old self would just show up and I felt like I was on defense all day. And my old self would just react. And then at the end of the day, look at the list that we think we had, and it looked exactly the same that it did 2 weeks ago, and that's because of lack of strategy.
Absolutely. And learn to use energetic words. I always tell my clients, have to is a very low energetic word. If you have to do something, you want to be inspired so that you want to do it or love to do it. These are the things that give you that inspiration to move forward, but knowing what you love to do or knowing what needs to be done. So you need to create priorities for each day. And I always tell people, if you have more than 5 priorities, you don't have any priorities. Because what happens is you end up doing all the easy stuff, right? And all the stuff that needs to get done doesn't get done. And like you just said, gets pushed to the next day and the next day and the next day. So that's important. So we have our strategies, we have our operations, we have our finances, we have our marketing and advertising. How do we find our ideal client or our ideal customer? And what message do we send them so that they are attracted to us? So that's an important part too. The next is people. You can't grow a business without people. And I hear this all the time. Oh, I can never get the right people. Well, what do you do? I mean, I used to kid a friend of mine because he was going through a lot of employees. And I say, what do you do in the interview process? Do you like stick a mirror under their nose and if they fog it up, they're hired? Is that the extent of what you do? It's so much better to find someone that has the soft skills rather than the hard skills, because you could always teach the hard skills, but you can't teach integrity. You can't teach honesty. You can't teach showing up on time. You can't teach, loving your job. Those are the things that you want to look for rather than the skill sets, because every 18 months, skills change. Skills change. There's always something new coming out. There's a new law. There's a new code in medicine. There's always something new to learn. So the hard skills are constantly changing, but the soft skills, the people skills, they're the ones that you want to find someone that has that within them so that they're inspired to do the job.
I agree, because a lot of the people that I've worked with, who worked with me, I've trained, I've taught them how to do the technical things, but to teach, compassion, patience, and to learn to be, open-minded and to pivot, like you said, in business, things change, and in life, things change, and to be able to go with the flow, to have that personality that I can't teach, and if I know someone who has that, then, welcome aboard. I love it.
Absolutely. I remember I was doing a talk for Health South, and they were telling me about this, physical therapist that they converted into a manager. And I'll talk about managing in a second. But, when you find somebody that has good credentials, but they can't get along with other people, then what you've done is you've hired a toxic genius. You've hired someone that has the skill sets, the capability of doing the job, but they can't get along with their team. They can't get along with people. So it creates a very stressful environment, and it's not healthy.
Would you be able, I mean, with all of your experience and all the businesses you've been helping, what are some of the, the most frequent type of challenges that small business owners face?
In my experience, small businesses face three challenges: time, money, and people. And just before I talk about that, I just want to finish up with the other phase of business besides after people, and that's creating systems. Because when we talked about managing, you cannot manage people. People are not manageable. Systems are manageable. That's why you have to find the right people and then manage the systems. So it's important to have good systems. And those things should start from day one, writing everything down so that every person that you hire knows exactly what they need to do. And then when the time comes that you want to sell your business, you just turn it right over. It's a turnkey operation with all the systems in place, just like franchises do. So getting back to time, money, and people, the time part is how much of your day is actually productive. Columbia University did a study with salespeople and found out that the average salesperson is productive an hour and a half a day, and the rest of the time is wasted because, again, no strategies, no priorities, wasting time on the phone, driving in the car, social media. There's a lot of stuff that eats up a day. So what systems do you put in place for yourself that you become more productive? And so that, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day, and it's how we use that time that makes us productive. The second thing is money. And it's one of the objections too. People, well, why just don't have the money? Well, I would say that there are ways and resources to get money. If you told me that you didn't have enough money to take on coaching, but then you get a phone call and you were in Florida last week and you spent your last dime in Florida on vacation, and before you left, you bought a lottery ticket and you happened to win the $10 million prize, and the only way that you can do it is get there in person, you'd find a way to buy the airline ticket, I think, wouldn't you? That's one of the things we do with our clients, is to find out, what their values are, because your highest values are your highest priorities. You don't do things unless they're important to you. So one of two things has to happen. Either you honor your values and be okay with it, or you change them. There's only two choices that you have, because if you set a goal and that goal is not in alignment with your values, you're never going to reach that goal, no matter what you do. It's not in the doing, it's in the being. And again, that's where the energy leadership training comes in, is to understanding where you are energetically, how you view the world, what filters do you see, what are your beliefs, what are your assumptions, what are your perceptions of how you view things. Do they energize you, or do they put you in a catabolic state where you're in fight or flight all the time, where you're either the prey or the predator, right? You're either running away or you're standing there fighting for your life. Either way is not resourceful. It's unfortunate, but a lot of people, are in that position.
From personal experience, when the information that you've provided to me was just fantastic, and I still use it. I always use all the information you give us. I love, the morning huddle that you send out on Mondays, because they're insightful. The reminders about what's important, energizing, and you're right, using the right words. It's amazing how all of those things that are considered little, or things that we're not focusing on, could really see into your life and affect your decision making, affect your energy levels of how you approach things.
If you're going to run, say you're going to run 5 miles, okay, and that's what your goal is for the day, is to run 5 miles. Well, in your mind, you should be running 25 miles. And then when the 5, because if you tell somebody to run a mile, okay, at the end of the mile, they're going to be huffing and puffing and sweating like an old warhorse, right? But if you tell somebody they have to run 5 miles, at the end of 1 mile, they're just warming up. It's right? Physiologically, right? You control what goes on. You control what goes on. So that's why it's all about asking the right questions, finding the right person that's going to get the best out of you, because it's all inside of you. Everything is inside of you. I don't have the answers for you. You have the answers for you. The skill set that I provide is I help you draw it out. I help you pull it from yourself. and get you to believe that it's possible for you if you're willing to do what it takes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Dan Cruoglio, and you're listening to just such fantastic information, wonderful nuggets that uh, you'll see that this is just the tip of the iceberg of what he can do for your business, what he can do for yourself, number one. And it doesn't just affect business. I'm telling you, Dr. Dan, the mindset you've been able to provide for me has helped me personally, helped with my family life, relationships, people I meet, and it's invaluable. How can people reach you?
First of all, I just want to make a comment on that because, what you do in life, you do in business, right? Because you bring yourself into it. So every business is a family business. Okay. So look at it that way because your family's involved. But I could be reached. My phone number is 732-690-4054. I have 3 websites. I have my lifeadjustmentscoaching.com website. I have Life Adjustments Business Academy, which is my online training course that I have that is provided for all my clients, but you can purchase it on your own and do it on your own if you choose to. I find that most people don't because they're all lazy by human nature. We're all lazy people, but that's available. And then I have Life Adjustment Startups for people that are starting up a new business, because in the beginning, when you start up, you really have to rev up those revenues and rev up those sales to get your seed money going and making some money. So those are the 3 websites that I have. I have my book, The Monday Morning Huddle, and I'm excited that in a couple of weeks I'm going to have my new book out called How to Sell Like Hell and Still Get to Heaven, which I think is going to be one of the best things that I've ever put together, because it talks about managing your energy, but it also talks about strategies that you can do to increase your sales. We talk about scripting. We talk about the marketing formula. We talk about all different aspects of growing a business, which I think people will find very, very helpful. And if they, decide that they would like some help, I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with them.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Dan. Again, everyone, Dr. Dan Cruoglio, Life Adjustment Coaching. Fantastic. Please reach out to him. He has just invaluable information that could help you with life and with your business. And this is Christine Matus of the Matus Law Group. We like to feature valuable partners that we feel could enhance your life, add value to you. So we thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. And again, Christine Matus of the Matus Law Group. Thank you, everyone.